Hi, I'm Steve Amireault from Purdue University. In this video, I will talk about the potential for motivation and features of the physical environment to interact in predicting leisure time physical activity. On behalf of my colleagues, I want to thank Jessica McLean and the Indiana Clinical and Translational Sciences Institute for their help in connecting with and recruiting study participants. Physical activity is vital for healthy aging. However, people tend to be less active as they grow older. Those who are inactive are less likely to engage in physical activity, and for many, physical activity levels tend to follow a declining trajectory as they age. Although motivating people to be more active and increasing their self-regulation skills is important, trying to understand or change people's physical activity motivation without consideration for the opportunities afforded to a person within their environment may be impractical. According to the social ecological framework, physical activity should be the result of direct, indirect, and interactive influences from factors of multiple levels that span from the individual to national policy. An understanding of multiple levels of influence can inform the development of multi-level interventions that offer the best chance for increasing and sustaining physical activity. Regarding the interaction between factors from multiple levels of influence, Rhodes and collaborator proposed two main hypotheses. First, there is an augmenting hypothesis, where a supportive environment helps those with high motivation engage in more physical activity. This is depicted by the blue line in the graph on the left. Second, there is an overcoming hypothesis, where a supportive environment helps those with lower motivation engage in physical activity. This is depicted by the orange line on the graph on the right. The purpose of this study was to determine whether walkability and bike accessibility interact with autonomous and controlled motivation in predicting leisure time physical activity among older adults. The Purdue University IRB approved this study, and all participants provided their informed consent. Adults aged 55 years and over without severe cognitive impairments from the All In for Health voluntary registry were contacted via email to complete an online surveys. Autonomous and controlled motivation were assessed at baseline using the BREC2. The internal consistency reliability coefficient for each constructs were all above 0.80. The physical activity scale for elderly was used to assess leisure time physical activity for 4 consecutive weeks. The leisure time physical activity scores were averaged over time. Walk score and bike score data were provided by the Walk Score company. The scores were then matched with each participant's county of residence. Controlling for past physical activity behavior, ordinary least squares regression analyses revealed that bike score index, controlled, and autonomous motivation interacted to predict leisure time physical activity. The graph on the left shows that for older adults reporting lower levels of controlled motivation, both bike score index and autonomous motivation independently and positively influenced leisure time physical activity. The graph on the right shows that for older adults reporting higher levels of controlled motivation, bike score index was positively associated with leisure time physical activity, but only for those who reported lower levels of autonomous motivation. Walk score ranking did not interact with the motivational constructs. It is worth noting that complete cases and multiple imputation analyses yielded similar findings. In conclusion, Bike Score Index interacted with autonomous and controlled motivations in predicting leisure time physical activity in this sample of older adults. Among older adults who feel some external pressure to engage in physical activity, Bike Score Index was positively related to leisure time physical activity, but only for older adults reporting lower levels of autonomous motivation. This observation is consistent with the overcoming interaction hypothesis proposed by Rhodes and collaborators. Among older adults who did not experience external pressure to engage in physical activity, both Bike Score Index and autonomous motivation were independently and positively related to leisure time physical activity. Attempts to replicate the findings in other samples are needed.